Right, we are back for another episode 17, and it's going to be a November one today. We're a bit snivelly. My guest has got a cold. My cameraman's a bit cold as well, and so am I. So this is going to be a cold one, but we'll get through. And apologies if you hear any music in the background because we're shooting on location today at Loughborough University. But no means less though. Today I'm linked up with Owen Heard, training partner of mine, missed the Commonwealth Games from 2022. We're going to have a conversation today. How are you, bro? You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks, bro.
Good,
How are
good,
you?
good. Yeah, not too bad. So just a quick thing. You know, obviously I put the thing out on my Instagram just to get questions for you. And that. Yeah. Nathan thinks he's slick, mate. Do you want, yeah, okay.
This is what's Nathan.
Yeah. So he thought it was anonymous and he'd be okay, didn't he?
Oh.
No, sir. No, it was obviously him straight away. This is a question that he asked me. And you might want to give him something back for this.
Oh, no, Nathan.
You ready? When are you going to do a session where you finish all the rhythm runs?
Don't chat to me about that, mate. He's the biggest culprit of not finishing the rhythm runs. I've been having hour-long talks with him at the end of the session, like, bro, you need to do the rhythm runs. You just need to finish the session. Just be disciplined, get it done.
I know.
I'll
tell him the same, mate. Tell him the same.
Him.
He just laughs at me and be like, I don't need to do it. Poor
Nathan,
from junior
mate.
athlete. You honestly, mate, you just live in his head 24/7 rent free.
Yeah.
Just getting mugged off by an under 17 athlete.
Poor.
It's
Poor
terrible.
lad.
It's terrible. Right, mate. We're at Loughborough, probably one of the most prestigious sporting unis in the world, and obviously the backdrop we've got behind us. What does this place kind of mean to you?
Oh, good question. I don't know, man. I guess I never knew about this place until I was like a under 17 athlete.
Okay.
And I came here for the school games.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in and just looking over the balcony off those steps and being like, whoa, this is sick. And then I kept doing my normal training back at home at the facility I was at. Yeah. And then I was just like, I have to go to uni here. Yeah. Like, if I want to be the best, it's probably the best place in the country for me to put myself. Yeah. So COVID saved me. I didn't have to do my A-levels. I managed to just scrape the grades to get in. I reckon I would have got higher grades if I actually did my exams, but like,
so
the government just gave me my grades, and I've just got in here.
You bounced on your predicted,
yeah.
Sound. Oh, amazing. I've not actually spoken to anyone about that. How was that for like your age group, and you perspective like that experience going through that time? Because that's quite an interesting one. Just being like, don't worry about your exams. Yeah. Here's your predicted and crack on.
I mean, for me, I was buzzing because I was like very behind on work and. When it comes to crunch time, I would have just revised really, really hard. And I think I would have got the grades I needed to get in. Yeah. But because COVID was there, we didn't get told definitely if we were doing our exams or if we didn't. So all my friends were revising as if it was going ahead and like trying really, really hard. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to pray to the gods and I'm not going to revise. And I did zero revision, like zero. And thankfully, like a few weeks before A-levels, it got announced that we didn't have to do them. And I was so happy. But half of the people were pissed off.
I get that though.
They were so upset. They were like, I've been working hard. Yeah. And then obviously my best mate, he wanted to go to dentistry university. But he got given his predicted grades and they weren't high enough to get in. Yeah. So he was annoyed, which is fair enough because he reckons if he actually did the exams, he would have got in. So I understand. But I was so grateful. I was like, I just don't have to do exams. I could train full time during COVID, outdoors by myself. It was brilliant. Yeah. So I was blessed from that. Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to have a chat with you about that time because that's when I met you, wasn't it? At Bracknell 2020. Is it 21 or 20?
2020, mate.
2020, yeah. Mad. It seems
COVID.
like, it seems like so close, but it feels like ages ago now. And one thing that I wanted to kind of give you a testament on really and wanted you to have a chat about with me is your dedication at the age to which you were, and still are quite young, but I was quite proud of you, to be fair, with that time because you didn't have to be putting in the graft that you were. I think you touched upon like working at Tesco, and then you bounced down to Bracknell like 11 p.m. at night and smash out a session in the dark on your ones. Yeah. Where does that drive come from for you? Or again for your age, because not to give any kids your age any bad stick because it's not the case, but I could completely understand if you just decided, you know what, I'm just going to chill out, bum around my mates and go out and get like smashed 24/7, but you decided to rock up to Bracknell every night unless it was with us doing a daytime session. Yeah.
Mate, I don't know. It sounds cringy, but I feel like it's just something you're just born with. Like I always had a desire to be different to everyone else. Maybe it's attention seeking, maybe it's desperation, but I hate the idea of mediocrity and just being the same as everyone else. So just in my mind, I was like, right, if everyone's in COVID just sat in their house, scared to go outside, scared to get in trouble, risking the rules, and like using it as an excuse to not train. I'm literally going to do the absolute opposite of that and just use this to my advantage. So I don't know, I guess I've always had the mindset of like, just don't be the same as everyone else, and like just grind hard. There's never a good enough excuse to not put in some form of work. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
It's quite an interesting one with that one with you as well. Again, I'll go back to your age, because you're
21 now.
21 now.
Yeah.
And that in of itself, I think, is a huge time, particularly being in an environment like uni. You know, I think from my experience of uni anyway, you really find out about yourself as a person, what you want to keep around you, and then also what you're going to do with your life, like moving forward. Again, particularly with like maybe like the rules you follow and things like that. And for you to take, in some respects, like a bit of a risk, really, to just be like, nah, you're all right. I'm just going to continue on with this individual to which I am. I think takes quite a lot, personally, if you don't mind me saying. But what are your reflections on it? Because again, from a competitive standpoint, I get it, and we get it as being in track and field. But as an individual as well, that takes quite a lot, because I'm sure there's loads around you that are just like, why don't you just do this with us like we're all doing?
Nah, yeah, you're right. Like, a lot of people always get on my case, like, not to tear me down, but a lot of people do tell me, like, oh, everything's a competition to you. Like, why can't you just chill and be normal about this? Why can't you blah, blah, blah? And I do little things like, I don't even know, just little things I'll do at home. I'll be like, if your room's dirty, like, you have to make your bed. It has to be done. Like, just being pristine and perfect about certain things. Everyone's like, you're just being over the top. Like, you don't have to do all this stuff. You can be like good at stuff without worrying about all these fine little details.
Yeah.
But people always try and tell me that I'm the weird one for doing that, which is fair enough. But you sort of just have to block it out and just still be your own person. Like, I have my principles which I follow, and like, people will try and tell you like you're just overdoing it, mate. Just relax, chill. But I mean, they're not wrong. Certain stuff isn't important, but if that's the way I'm wired, then that's the way I'm wired. And if that ultimately leads to me having a good work ethic at training as well, and in my degree and all of that, then I don't think that should ever be taken away from you. So it's harmless, but a lot of people do try to sort of take that from you and be like, no, come on, come back to come back to normality, be like everyone else, just relax for a second. But you sort of have to block that out a little bit.
Take me through that though, on that point you just said, when you said that they're not wrong. So clearly there's a bit of you that identifies like the drive that you have for things and maybe the effort you put into it. Are you saying that you can identify that's a bit more than what maybe your average person would? Yeah,
like sometimes it's illogical and I'm too strict on myself about things where I don't need to be strict about. I can't really give an example, but just like, if I say something in my mind, if I say some words, I have to meet my words, otherwise I'm a failure. And even if it's the most minor, irrelevant thing, like, I need to finish 1,000 more words of this essay before I go to sleep tonight, otherwise I've failed, I will do that. And if I've procrastinated and wasted my whole day and it gets to 2 a.m. and I still haven't done it, although it's stupid to stay up from 2 a.m. till 3 a.m. doing those 1,000 words, I'll do it because I have to meet the words I've said. So that's when people will be like, come on, that's stupid, just be smart, wake up, do it the next day, which is probably the smarter option to do, but I will always I have to stick to the words I've said. I know, I guess I'm too principled. It can be seen as a bad thing, but at the same time, that's just the way I'm wired, so I've just got to stick to that.
I get where you're coming from. I hear you wholeheartedly. I think, is it too principled though, for based on maybe the wider environment to which, you find yourself in? Because again, that very principled, maybe terming it like a bit concrete in your thinking maybe, and not being able to adjust too much. Has that ever kind of, if we look at it based on like a scale, does that benefit you more so than it's a negative, or is it a 50-50 balance sometimes?
I would say it always benefits me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it bites me in the bum, like if I went to bed at 3 a.m. because I was doing 1,000 words just to prove to myself that I could do it. But ultimately, I move forwards like more proud than if I hadn't have done it. If I'd gone to bed and woken up the next day at 10 a.m. because I went to bed at 1 a.m. because I procrastinated for too long, I would just be annoyed with myself and there would be no pride. Even though I wasted my sleep by staying up to 3 a.m., I have that pride in the sense that I've actually completed what I said I was going to do. So I think always it's a benefit for being principled.
It's a huge word for you to use from the context of just applying that to uni work. And maybe that's where I wonder if like other people are just like, oh my God, like this kid is like just on job 24/7. Because from in this environment, warming up when we're competing, I think everyone gives us like an offer, like a let off for that. Like it's, fair enough. He's in this kind of environment where we need to be competitive, we need to be dominant, but to apply it to like uni work as well, that's huge. Like
maybe I'm painting a false picture here. I'm not that on job. I'm not that on job with my uni work. Yeah. Like, to be fair, I get good grades. I make sure I get good grades, but I leave my work to the last minute sometimes. I'm not perfectly well planned with it because training is my number one priority. University is far second. It's way down there. Training is my number one priority.
Okay.
But yeah, like when it actually comes to crunch time, it doesn't matter. I'll still put in like hard work, keep my hard principles. Okay. So I'm not as on job as I made it sound. I bet
you are, bro.
I'm just very pedantic about when I set a rule to myself that I have to meet it.
Yeah, but
that's all it is.
Yeah, but you're lying. You're talking to me who sees you and trades with you, bro. That I can see it. Everything you've explained there now makes sense to me. Like the feeling off of you from a training perspective. Pause, not in a weird way, but just in terms of that, there's. I think sometimes it's certain individuals in the group where maybe you'll have one of those off day sessions where you just might need to chill out at the back for a bit, and then one of those on sessions, it's just like, right, sound Owen's down tonight as well, which is going to then pull through. What? Just looking on the reflection of that, then, bro. What does switching off look like for you, if ever? I mean, do you? Because is there a limit? And I'm not asking that as a loaded question for you to say, I've got to get rest sometimes because, again...
Mate, I switch off a lot. Like, I've made it sound like I'm on job all the time.
No, I've got to explain, bro. Take it.
I switch off a lot. Like, I save my crunch time for when it's, like, pertinent, like when it's absolutely important. That's when I put in 100. But most of the time, I'm chilling. Like, even some sessions, when I'm warming up, I'm not switched on. I'm chilled. I'm just there. I'm chilling. Like, I don't take it super serious. I only take it super serious like at the actual, like the key moment, like of the session when it's 3-2-50s and it's lactic death session. Yeah. Like that's when the brain switches on because you can't be switched on 24/7 because you're just gonna have low quality output. So if you just leave yourself switched on all the time, then it's gonna be rubbish. So you have to pick and choose when you're gonna switch on. So for me, switching off, I don't know, man. This is
why I've got you. I've got you because you don't know, because probably you never know. Go on.
I love like me time. I like being alone.
Yeah.
I get more stuff done when I'm alone, but I guess when I switch off, I'll just chill with the boys, chat rubbish with my mates. Like those are the best moments. And sometimes when I'm actually pole vaulting, like pole vault itself, I switch off during that because I've done the hard graft in the gym. I've done the hard graft on the sprinting, the lactic, all of that. The pole vault's the fun part. So it's almost like I'm switched off there. Yeah, I'm focused on the technical points, but when I'm gunning it down the runway and just sending it into the air, there's nothing you can do at that point. So I just switch off and enjoy it. Yeah. So I guess pole vault in itself, that's me switching off.
What would be the percentage? Because obviously today, Sunday's rest day for you. So what does rest day look like for Owen Heard then? Let's give you a chance here to fight your way back so people do know that you chill out. What if we weren't doing this right now, what would a Sunday look like for you?
I mean, today I've done nothing. I woke up, went to the memorial service in town. 2 minutes silence and all that, Remembrance Day. And then, just came here, had lunch, chilled. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing a bit of uni work because I'm a little bit behind. But I don't know, meet up with my girlfriend maybe, do something, chill. Like, not watch a show. I never really watch TV anymore, but probably do something with my mates. Maybe just hop to the park next to my house and just play a bit of basketball, casually. Yeah. I'm not very good. I don't know, mate.
It's interesting.
I don't have a set thing I do when I chill.
No, I get you. I hear it. I hear, but it's interesting, isn't it, that like for rest and recovery in that perspective is still being active, go and play basketball, stuff like that. Whereas I guess maybe the wider population would be like, as you mentioned, sitting, chilling, watching a show.
If I sat down all day, that would make me feel worse. Like, I've got to get up and I don't know. My body just stiffens up. I've got an impulse to just move and do stuff. So if I just sit there, I don't know. It makes me feel more tired. When you lay in bed all day, you're preserving your energy, but it makes you feel more tired than if you get up and do something. So I don't know.
Okay. No, fair enough. Let's have a chat then in terms of there's a moment that you mentioned in there as well that I want to have a chat with you about just enjoying being alone. I've always reflected on that as being quite like an admirable trait for someone to have, because for some, not everyone, but being alone, then just gives you time to think.
Yeah.
And think about stuff sometimes that isn't great. I think, if anything, COVID was like a awesome example of that, right? In terms of like, we've all wished that one day we could just stop working for a bit. COVID came around, and then within like a couple months, particular job I do, like it was like, oh yeah, no, this is not great for like everyone around you.
Yeah.
What comfort do you take out of being alone? Why is that a nice space for you, do you think?
Oh, the thing is, like, when I'm with people, I tend to give my full attention to the people, so I'm not really in my own thoughts. So when I'm with my friends or with my girlfriend or with the boys, like, anything that I need to get done in the background will never get done when I'm with people. So as soon as I'm alone, my thoughts wake up again, and I can actually think. When I'm with people, I don't think. When I'm alone, that's when I think again. So alone time for me that's when the best thoughts come out of my brain. So like when I'm alone, I think of, what do I actually want to do this year? What are my goals? And I set my goals, and I think about all this stuff when I'm alone. But when I'm with people, I'm distracted. I don't really do that. So I need that alone time to be proficient in life. Like I need that. So yeah, I'd say the magic happens when you think. You think, you set your goals, and then you bring it to life through action. But if that first bit of thinking didn't happen in the first place, when you're alone, then none of it's going to come to fruition. So yeah, for me, that's what I like about alone time.
Oh, okay. And just out of interest with that, because from a sporting perspective, and again, another big reason why I wanted you on this was because, I'm tipping you, hopefully, for you to be kind of one of the future faces of one, British athletics, but also pole vaulting as well.
Hope so, man.
Yeah, no. I've got every hope that you will be. But
thank you, bro.
What, in terms of the thinking side of stuff, because again, there is a limit, I think, sometimes, in terms of you can then do too much. Is there anything that contributes to you not getting in your own head from a performance perspective sometimes? Because I know we've probably seen it with athletes in and around us that like something's set, or the way they performed last year when things are not going and clicking as it does the following year, and that is probably more detrimental to them from a performance perspective mentally than the physical
absolutely.
side. Have you ever maybe caught a case of overthinking too much, do you think? Or
don't even get me started. Too many times.
Yeah.
So, mate, I've been through some pretty, I could say, rough patches with pole vault. So about, when I jumped my PB as an under 17, I jumped, I think, 4 meters 71. And since that moment, for like the next 3 years, I just kept running through. So I kept running down the runway and just not jumping, not taking off. I just bottled it. Yeah. Like it's a mental block thing. Yeah. And I had that for like a good 3 years. And when I first joined this uni as well, I still had it and I was struggling with it. Yeah. And I thought I was broken in the mind, or there was something wrong with me, or I had a condition. Not a condition, but I just thought maybe I'm not built for pole vault. Like my brain can't handle it. Yeah. And I was just stuck on that thought, like there's something wrong with me. And once I got that idea out of my head, everything just went back to normal, and I felt like great to vault again. And even last year I had some struggling again, running through, like just getting in my own head. I kept just thinking about bad instances that had happened in the past and just holding on to them. And you get confused. You think that worrying is preventative. So I think if I think about all the things that could go wrong, then it's not going to happen. But the opposite is actually true. The more you think about a bad scenario, the more likely it is to actually happen. So I just kept telling myself that worrying was preventative, but it's actually not. And once I got out of that mindset, training is just a lot more free, and I can just perform way better. And another thing that helps me a lot as well to get out of my own head is a bit of reading. Like there's a couple good books that just talk about your mind and how you can be self-sabotaging when you overthink and you take away from the actual experience of life. So turning off that overthinking, honestly, I just vault so good when I'm not thinking. So that's the main thing for me. Yeah.
What are the titles of those books, just in case people want to?
One of them is called The Little Book of Big Change by Amy Johnson. Yeah. That's more about breaking habits or setting good habits. Yeah. That's a really good one. And then another one is called It's That Simple, a simple user's guide for human beings, or something like that. That's a really good one. There's just a few simple, quick stories in it and a couple quotes, and it's literally all it is it just states the obvious to you. Yeah. And then I realized, oh my days, like I was literally in a hole of bad thinking. I read this 2 pages and I realized how much of an idiot I was being in my own brain. And I think a lot of people self-sabotage within their own minds, but they're just not aware of it. And as soon as you read one little thing which states the obvious, you're like, oh, why was I doing that? So yeah, stuff like that helps me a lot.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's at that point as well where you mentioned in terms of, you know, you've got the thoughts, you've got the plan, but without action, nothing happens. I just wonder with those books and the application that you did is maybe where some people might not be as confident in terms of, right, I've read the book, but applying it's a bit scary because you might need to change certain things, or those books highlight actually where you as the individual have gone a bit wrong. And you're almost having to take that on and be like, oh, I need to change it. It's quite a scary thing to do. Was that something in of itself that you found with reading those books at all? Like being like, oh, that thing is me that's causing negatives here and this is what I need to change, or not so much?
For me, as soon as I read it, I was fixed. Like I didn't have to put anything into action. Yeah. All I did, I was just in a higher state of thinking. I'd brought my thinking down to a low level and I was just self-sabotaging. Yeah. And as soon as I read a certain thing that made me realise how stupid I was being, my thinking already changed. And that's all it is. Your thinking drives what you do. Your thinking drives your experience of life. So as soon as my thinking changed, I didn't need to do anything about my actions. Like I was in the right mindset at that point. So I was sorted. So it's fine. Yeah.
Amazing. Could we go into just that 475, did you say?
471.
471. Yeah. It's really interesting that you mentioned coming off a PB that happened. Yeah. I've always been so reflective on my own time. When I've PB'd, it's like, I need to get to the track this week and smash reps because I need to run another one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's a massive high. What contributed? What was different about that 471 that maybe compared to previous PBs? If anything, have you reflected on that at all?
I guess at that age, that was the current peak that I'd hit. And although I'd hit PBs before that, the reason I didn't react the same way as when I hit this PB is I didn't feel like I'd hit my peak yet. But I guess I told myself when I jumped 471, oh, I'm getting close to my peak of that current age. Okay. In my mind, I only thought, maybe I can jump 5 meters at this age as a maximum. And then when I'm 17 years old, I'll jump 520, and then when I'm 18, I'll jump 530. So I thought I was quite close to my maximum. I put a limit on myself, that's the main thing, and I thought I was close to that limit. And because of that, I thought, like you said, it's such a high point. I came off that high point, and I was like, this is going to be hard to match again. And because I built up that big barrier in my head, it just instilled a load of self-doubt.
So just so I've got this clear then, so you were giving yourself that height for that age group and didn't feel that you'd be able to match anything until going up age group and pole, is that what you're saying?
I felt like I was close to the limit, yeah. I felt like maybe I could have jumped 20, 30 centimetres higher, but at that age I was almost at the limit. I basically told myself I was near my peak of my current form, and only when I improved my form, either through harder training or through getting older, then I could have jumped higher. So I guess in my head it was like a big barrier because I thought I was so close to my maximum potential of that age, which was obviously false.
Yeah, and quite different to what you were saying in terms of how you just set your life up. In terms of, I'm going to do this, I'll achieve it, boom. Like, you know, cleaning your room, like, it needs to be done, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Yeah, what?
I didn't used to have that when I was younger. I didn't used to tidy my room, and I used to be lazy, and I used to procrastinate, and I used to put stuff off. It's only, it's more of a recent thing that I've had this more principled way of thinking. Okay. I think it's definitely helped me in terms of training, absolutely. Like when you said you first met me in lockdown, that was when I sort of started to breed that way of thinking. Okay. So before that, I wasn't so much that way, but I saw like COVID as an opportunity to just try and get ahead of everyone else that was sat inside. Yeah.
Where does that come from? Because that, again, that's so internal, as you've mentioned. I know this is like really internal stuff, and maybe there is nothing external towards it. But I also don't want to disregard the fact that I reckon a lot of people probably had the exact same thought process that you did, but still chose to do the more comfortable thing of staying on the sofa, you know, watching films, eating shit food, because it was just that time to do that. But you've, again, to even be able to acknowledge that, Owen, I think, again, as I said to you, mate, quite admirable as an individual, having met you and trained with you and being like, actually, this needs to be, of all the information we're getting in the world, in that this is the worst thing ever and everything's going to be delayed, you were just like, nah, you're all right, thanks. I'm going to do a complete 180.
Yeah.
Where does it come from, bro? Especially the decision to change at that time.
Yeah. I guess, like you say, it is internal. So my family can back me up on this. I'm probably the most competitive person they've ever known. So everything's a competition in my mind. But just because I'm so competitive, like, I just had to be doing more than everyone else. Like, that's it. It's just a simple matter of competition in my mind. So if I knew everyone was at home blaming like excuses as to why they can't go out and train or the rules of COVID and stuff like that, then I just saw that as my opportunity to just win the competition, which I created in my head, which isn't real, but everything's a competition in my mind. So that probably contributes to some of the way that I'm like that, right? So yeah, everything's hyper competitive in my brain. Yeah, but other than that, like, I guess since a young age, I did gymnastics like 5 days a week when I was like 8, 9 years old to a pretty high level. I did tumbling and I had a really strict Russian coach. And I think it helped me like get in good shape young and good discipline at a young age for training. And my dad always used to tell me, like, you can't miss training. And I would always try and cry, try and get out of training. I wouldn't want to do it. But I'd agreed to train 5 days a week at this club, so I was going to do it. And my dad used to tell me, sometimes the days where you feel like you don't want to do it, or if you feel ill or something, if you still go to training, that's what counts. So he told me that, and I've just lived by that ever since he said it. I did used to cry and get out of some gymnastic sessions, but let me off. I was 8 or 9, but like during COVID, I told myself I was going to train at Bracknell track 6 times a week, or a couple of those would be gym days. But and if I didn't do that, I would just feel like I failed what I've set out. And I would just remember what my dad said, like, it doesn't matter if you feel a bit rough today or if you don't feel up to it or if you feel a bit ill, you still have to do it. So once I had that in my mind, it's just been like that forever. So I've just stuck to that rule.
Mate, honestly, 100%, bro. Again, when some of the days that we were at Bracknell and you weren't down, and I just, asking coach where you are, and then he'd like show me your times that you'd done like that night, sending it through at like 1 a.m.
I had to do it at 1 a.m. after working at Tesco because I worked night shifts. Oh man, but I had to get it done.
I mean, just out of interest, with again that the training 5 days a week as a kid at that age, and then performing to the level that you have done, from being a kid, how have you dealt with this maybe lack of? I'm saying lack of just from my own experience of how I navigated my secondary school days with athletics as well, because I was so like, I'm in track and field, that's it. You lot, I'll see you in a bit, kind of thing. Have you? Do you reflect on that at all and like feel that you've missed out in any way, shape or form?
Yeah, especially when I was younger, I did feel left out a lot. Like, my friends would meet up and go out after school or do something, just hanging out with your mates. You go out on your bikes and you just do stuff. I rarely ever got to do stuff like that because I had training all the time. But I guess when I was in secondary school, I wasn't training as intensely as when I was 8, 9 years old doing gymnastics because the local athletics club I joined only did 3 days a week of training, 2 days a week, but I used to do pole vault an extra 1 day. And as I got a bit older, I did pole vault 2 more times. So I ended up only training 4 times a week. Whereas when I was younger, it was 5 times a week straight after school every day. So yeah, when I was younger, I missed out. When you're an 8, 9-year-old, you go around your friend's house after school. I didn't get to do that much because I always had gymnastics. And I didn't get to play COD with my brother at home because I was always at gymnastics training. So he was left home playing COD by himself a lot of the time. He didn't have his little brother to play with because I was always at gymnastics. So it definitely was a bit of a different life for him as well, where I used to do gymnastics so much. But like, hats off to him because he took one for the team on that one. Like, he could have done gymnastics and joined me if he wanted to, or gone like to football training 5 days a week. But he was just doing the standard football training a few times a week. So yeah, my mum used to take me to gymnastics all the time, and he was sort of left to his own devices a little bit. So I rate him for firming that one. But yeah, I missed out on playing with young kids when I was 8, 9, like going around your friend's house. That sounded weird. Cut that out. And then in secondary school, like leaving parties early, not drinking because I have a competition that weekend and all that stuff. It used to annoy me a bit at the time, and I just wanted to be like everyone else, but now I'm so grateful that I didn't do that. And when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be sat there remembering those amazing times when I was in a year 11 and I was at that party right till the end. Like, I'm not going to care. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is where you put your energy into other parts of life. So I'm going to be grateful that I missed out on that stuff when I was that age.
And where does that point change in terms of going from a bit upset that you've missed out to that explanation at the end there, in terms of, do you know what, actually it was the right thing? Do you remember when that kind of changed or that light bulb switched on for you at all? Or?
Good question. I don't think there was a singular turning point where that happened. I think I would always feel annoyed at the time, but if I ever broke it down and rationalised it and thought logically about it, even at that age, a week after I'd missed out, I'd be like, you know what, I'm glad I did that because I had a really good training session that day, or I won a medal in this competition, and maybe I wouldn't have if I didn't go to that party all the way until the end, you know? So I guess, yeah, I'd get some kind of gratification out of it quite soon after. But nowadays it's so blatantly obvious that I'm happy I missed out. So I guess as I matured, I just became more of a logical thinker.
Yeah,
and
it comes
just,
a bit later.
extremely obvious now that I'm glad I missed out. When you're a kid, you're not so logical. So it's probably that as well.
Just reflects on that kind of long-term investment thinking as well, doesn't it? In terms of like, right, in this moment in time, this is crap. Like every kind of winter training is, you know, like when you're in it, you're like, oh,
horrible,
why am I doing this?
Horrid,
And then again, go out that following summer and realise why and remember why you've done it. No, fair enough. Could we have a chat in and around kind of your family dynamic with you being a young kind of gifted kid, and as you mentioned with your brother and stuff, and then maybe him having to take a bit of a step back sometimes because of how did you all kind of navigate that? If you don't mind me asking, you can give as much as little detail on this as possible. But
no problem. Just ever since I was young, I was just hyperactive. Mate, I was so hyperactive. Like they called me fidget and whatever. I couldn't sit still. All of that stuff. So they had to take me to like when I was like a 5-year-old. They took me to like just a kids play around gymnastics day, just to let off some steam because they had to. It saved them time by taking me there. So. Yeah, they always just trying to like keep me occupied because of how annoying I was. But then I guess after that, my parents always tried to, they didn't force us into anything, but they always tried to get me and my brother to just do sport because they know how good it is for you. So we always played football. I always did all the sports, gymnastics, football, everything. And then athletics as soon as I was old enough to join my local club because you weren't allowed to join until you were like 11. But yeah, they've always been pretty happy to let us do sport, but they were never pushy with me about it. They let me choose how much training I wanted to do. And I always personally chose to do more and more and more because I don't know why, mate. I just always wanted to be the best at everything I did. So that's why I ended up training loads and my brother not so much because, yeah, he enjoyed it, but I don't think he had a massive internal drive to like, oh, I want to be the best in the world at this or that. But if he wanted to train loads and loads like me, they would have taken him as well. No problem. But yeah, I just don't think he wanted to do gymnastics either. He used to bully me for doing gymnastics. He used to say it was gay. Everyone at school used to say that, but it's funny to be fair. I used to laugh it off. I used to take it well. But yeah, I don't know. The family dynamic's always been pretty good. Like my mum is the main person. Shout out to mum. She always took me to training every day after school. And even the days when I was really young and I used to cry in the car and pretend I had a stomachache and not want to go into gymnastics, she would just sit there with me and talk to me for ages and ages, and eventually I'd go in, and then after the session I'd be happy I did it. So yeah, she drove me to London every week during school, took me to pole vault training. So yeah, so I had a really supportive family, so I guess that's what has allowed me to get to this point so far.
And it never kind of, again, as I say, little as much detail as you want with this, but it never kind of impacted yours and your brother's relationship at all with that in any way? Again, kind of you performing quite highly, having to be at things, you know, maybe mum or dad just using their time with you didn't kind of like impact
like
anyway.
My brother's always had my back. He used to give me a bit of stick, like, oh mate, you're taking training too seriously, like, shut up. But deep down he's backing me. And I guess I used to have the odd little bicker with my mum because I'd always be late for training and she had to rush me there every day during rush hour. It was a pain in the backside for her. So I used to annoy my mum quite a little bit if I was a bit late or on time, or I was being rude about her taking me to training. Like I was a spoiled kid and I expected that to happen, and I wasn't owed any of that. So I'm very grateful that my mum still took me to training all those days of the week because obviously she believed in me, so that's why she took me there. There was the odd bicker or argument to do with my sport, and it used to get in the way of some things, but we managed it quite well, and it's not been a problem.
Yeah, shout out to Mama Heard, man.
Shout out to Mum.
Legend. I went through your Power of 10, just again doing a bit of research.
bit of stalking.
Yeah, bro, 100%. It's on a public platform, so don't make me out to be some creep on my own podcast. On my own platform.
He's a stalker. He is a stalker.
Shut up on my own platform. No. So anyway, went through, and when I was like scrolling down, 2014 lasted for ages. It was at least 3 scrolls before we got into 2013. And I counted each individual performance, and this was you at under 13, and you did 70 performances as a whole. Obviously, mixture of things,
70,
pole vault,
right.
100, a few sprinting, a few multi-event in things as well. So you've been in and around the block with track and field forever. If we're looking at that from that perspective, that's a lot to do. How have you found that? Just, you know, again, just being in these kind of environments all the time.
Yeah, just being stuck in the track world.
Yeah,
as soon as I entered the track world, I've been stuck here ever since.
Yeah, opening your trap bag, bro, and little bits of like Mondos like falling out of your bedroom floor and that.
Sand and that everywhere from the pit.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, mate. Just as soon as I was old enough to compete, I just did every competition I could. And they used to chuck me in 5 events in a day. That was like the maximum you could do. You could do like 4 events plus a relay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd sneak an extra one in there as well if I could get away with it. I don't know. I had so much energy to burn when I was a kid. I just did absolutely anything and everything. As long as I was semi-good at it, at least. And to be fair, since I was young, like, I always thought in my mind I was the best and I was better than everyone else, but my results didn't always reflect that. Like, for ages, as an under 13 and an under 15, I was never the best. Like, there were kids that hit puberty earlier than me, were taller than me, they were just better than me. And, like, that was just reality. But I still knew in the back of my mind, right, as soon as I catch up with them, as soon as I have my growth spurt, you wait, you watch and see what happens. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been stuck in the track world. As soon as I left gymnastics and started track, I've just been in it, and that's it. I didn't have a second guess. I didn't think about anything else. I quit football when I was in year 7 at school, year 8 at school, so maybe about that age, 13, 14 years old, so that I could take it seriously, because I believed that I would go quite far with it. So I've got a way to go yet, but we've started.
Mate,
we're getting
you're
there.
in and about, and we'll come into Commonwealth in a bit, but you're in and about. Let's not cut it cheap, because you are there. But let's start getting into that now and having a conversation around pole vault, because it's a very different event to what the rest of track and field is. I've always reflected on track and field as just a glorified sports day, and you just want to hold on to that childhood in it, and being the fastest, throwing the furthest, jumping the furthest. But then pole vault is just such a different event compared to everything we do in track and field. How do you find yourself falling into that?
Mate, to be fair, that's probably the most asked question of my life. Like, how did I actually start pole vault? It's because I joined the track and field club as soon as I was old enough, my local club. And I did sprints and hurdles, which is what I trained with you for. Yeah. And as soon as the opportunity arose, I jumped at the chance to do pole vault. So there was a taster session one day. I turned up to the taster session. I enjoyed it. But to be honest, I didn't enjoy it so much that I was desperate to go again. But my best mate, Tolu, shout out to Tolu, he said he enjoyed it, he wanted to go back again. And because I was good mates with him, I was like, all right, if you're doing it, I'm doing it. Yeah. So I went back with him for a second session, and we did like a 6-week camp. And thanks to Tolu, because after that 6-week camp, I was hooked and became a pole vaulter from that moment forwards. Yeah, you might have to clip that, bro. If you make it, bro. Tolu, mate.
Them senior medals, all Tolu.
Yeah, it's all Tolu. My guy. But that's how I got into it. And then, other than that, the reason why it's my favourite, I guess, is because sprinting is a test of who's the fastest athlete. Throwing is a test of who's the most powerful, whatever, you know, and jumping is a test of who's the springiest and the fastest combined. But pole vault is similar to that. You need to be super fast and you need to be super springy, but you've got to have balls, mate. For pole vault, you're gunning it as fast as you can with a stick in your hand. You've got to put trust in that. You just got to send it and just rocket yourself over the bar. Something about it's more exhilarating to me than the other athletics events. No discredit to the other events. You could argue that people argue that 100 meters is the hardest event because it's the hardest event to win, because the most people enter it, the most people watch it. It's the hardest to be the best at, because it's all down to the fine details and you have to be genetically gifted. So you could say 100 meters is extremely hard, but for me, pole vault is hard in a different way, and it requires that balls and that mindset as well.
Well, that's why I argue maybe yours is probably up there with the 100, because there's no fear element, is there? There's no danger element of 100 or a 2. It's just you run. Whereas if we did a few questionnaires as to what is the reason why I didn't do pole vault, and then maybe one of the questions being, is it because you're scared you're going to get hurt? It would be interesting to see how many people voted yes on that.
Yeah.
Because no, I agree with you. I've always looked at it. I just find it amazing. I just my level of self-preservation is like, George, don't do that.
But you've hurdled, so
but that's a couple of sticks though. It's a bit of plastic.
True. The danger of hurdles honestly is nothing compared to pole vault.
Exactly.
Like after you see people get scared to hurdle and run around them and stuff like that. Yeah. As soon as I learnt pole vault, I've never ran around a hurdle ever in my life. Like I'm not scared of doing a hurdle ever. It's just not allowed.
Could you imagine as well? You just like at training one day and then coach being like, "Why did you run around that?" And you're like, "Because I was scared of it." But you do pole vault. What are you about?
Yeah,
you actually don't have a right to.
They would not be having that.
What in terms of then coming into 2022, because before we go into the Commonwealths, I think if you're happy to talk about this, by the way, as well, you weren't having a great year.
No.
And we had conversations about it throughout that year as well, and you were close to kind of walking away as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just kind of take people through what was going on for you, if you're comfortable to? As much as little you want to give.
I guess so. Like I explained earlier, I was just having mental blocks, and I just kept bottling it in training. I'd run down the runway and I wouldn't jump. I was just getting so annoyed at myself, and I was trying all these little tricks and these tactics to just trick my brain into not being scared and just jumping. But as simple as it was, I was just overthinking, and the way I was trying to fix that was by thinking more, by trying to fix my brain. Okay, I'm thinking incorrectly, so let's think of a new way to think to fix it. And that just adds to the overthinking. And it didn't work. And I got caught up in a cycle of that for years and years. And after 3-4 years of that, in 2021, I was pouring my heart into the sport. I was still grinding harder than ever. But the pole vaulting part itself just wasn't there because I just kept bottling it. And I came quite close to quitting because although I always believed I was going to be like one of the greatest at my sport, I've just always, maybe you could call it delusion, self-delusion, but I always self-deluded and told myself that, and I truly believed that. So despite thinking that, I was just so fed up of just like not PBing for years and years and not putting in a good performance and just bottling it and constantly running through. And after years and years of doing the same thing, you doubt whether it's possible to make a change. So there was a tiny little thread left inside my brain that was like, you can make a change. The rest of my brain was telling me, right, give up. You've tried so many times and the change isn't happening. It's not there. So there was this tiny little thread left. And I questioned myself so many times, like, is it worth me doing this? Why don't I just forget about it now? Stop wasting all this time that I'm putting into the sport because if ultimately I'm not going to be one of the best, it's pointless. And I wouldn't be content with just doing the sport for myself or doing it for fun. Like, fair play to do, if you want to do that, like, not knocking people that just do the sport because they enjoy it, because doing sport is brilliant for you. So it is good if you do that. But for me personally, I would have been so annoyed if I spent all these years in athletics and I didn't make anything of myself through it. So that's why I was close to quitting. But in the end, I didn't quit, and I found a way out.
Yeah, good.
I removed all of the self-doubt from my brain, and I fixed my mindset, and I stopped overthinking.
And in this example, because I know we've touched upon in the past when we've had those mental blocks, again, was there anything different in that time that helped with that moment? Or has it already been some of the things that we've touched on and reflected on already?
Some of the things we've touched on, yeah. But was there anything in particular in that moment? Yeah, I guess just the thought that, like, if I quit now, like, that's it. Like, it's done. That's it. So the one thing I had going for me my whole life was sort of my competitiveness and my sporting capabilities. Right, that you sort of almost get identified with that. You're like, oh, that's not Owen, that's Owen the pole vaulter, that's Owen the athlete. Yeah. You know, so that you need to take yourself away from that, yes, but that was the main thing I had going for me my whole life. I was like, right, I've actually got a shot at being great at something. So if I'd quit, like, what now? Like, nothing. I'm just a normal guy now. That's it. And I just could not live with myself having given up. So although I was very close to giving up because it was so many years of me just getting nowhere, making no progress, I just couldn't let myself just be like, okay, I'm done now. There's nothing left for me. I'm just a normal guy now. So that's probably the main thing that stopped me.
Knock me back on what I'm going to say now, if you need to, because again, what you've just said there basically encompasses why I'm doing this and getting the individuals I have on, because you, Owen Heard, that anyone doesn't know or a fan of athletics that, you know, follows the sport, it's just that's Owen Heard, the pole vaulter. And what we're trying to do with these conversations is remove you from that and hear from like the individual and the mindset that goes into being that person. Do you not find though with what you've just said there, because and I'm gonna bring your mum in as an example here, is that she knows Owen as she probably doesn't even know you as a pole vaulter, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like she doesn't hold that identification of you. You're just Owen. Yeah. Do you not think that, like, in terms of that you are very hard on yourself, looking at it from that perspective? And I'm not saying that you are hard on yourself. I just want to maybe throw that out there because people might listen to what you've just said there and reflect on the fact of, like, God, this kid is obviously so much more, you know, even from the conversation we're having, you can explain things really coherently. Like, you're not an idiot. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can have a long form conversation.
Cheers.
So, but you know, the evidence is there. It happens. We're doing it now. But you're then just like, no, I'm Owen the pole vaulter, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you just need to understand, like, no one's a superhero. No one's got superpowers. Even the people in the world that have achieved the greatest things you could possibly fathom, they're normal people at the core. So people, I guess you forget that. And I guess I sometimes forget that, right, I've got to be the pole vaulter. If I want to be like one of the great pole vaulters, I can't just be this normal guy. I have to be special. I have to be different. But you do in some ways, but at the end of the day, they're normal people. And, like, I'm sure if you met the biggest hero in your life, like, pick a hero in your mind and meet them, like, at the base level, they're still just a human being. They're just a normal person. So people have this idea in their mind that, like, the best athletes in the world or the best sports people or the best actors are, like, just special and different. Echelons, but all humans at a base level, we are all the same. We're made of the same substance. We think the same ways. So people just lose track of that.
So do you now have an acceptance maybe that also that you can give yourself a break to be a normal human being, I wonder, with what you just said there?
The way you say normal human being makes it sound bad. So no,
I don't mean it that. No, I hear you, but I promise I'll say it for everyone so you don't get in trouble. I don't mean normal as it's a bad thing. But, you know, giving yourself the opportunity to just be let's say a civilian then, you know, just a civilian. Does that fill you with any form of comfort, or does it always have to be the competitive athlete first, and then we put on the facade of the civilian?
The word civilian makes you feel like, you're just a normal guy. So no, I don't like the idea of that. But in the sense that you're saying that, like, just thinking that to be a great athlete, you have to just be different and special, and there has to be something special about you and different. Not true. Like, if the world record holder, there's nothing crazy and magic about him that doesn't exist in me. So I can do, if he can do it, I can do it. So he's a normal civilian, I'm a normal civilian. We can achieve whatever we put our mind to. So if you break it down in that sense, like, being a normal civilian, like, seeing yourself as just a normal civilian is good in that sense. But in terms of everything else in life, I don't like seeing myself as a normal civilian. But you're right. Like, if someone else can do it, then you can do it. There's no magic. There's no special thing they were born with. Like, you can absolutely do it. You just can't put limits on yourself. Yeah,
and I agree with you. But again, you wouldn't survive in this environment that we're in today if you just applied that normal civilian mindset to everything you do. Because we've had discussions about it anyway down the track and stuff. But like me on a race day, I don't want anyone to come to watch unless it's my mum and my sister, because they know what I'm like. Friends have asked before, I'm like, you do not want to see me in this environment. Because it's just this change of just, I don't know, like, it's not aggressive, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's just this different human being that you're not going to recognise.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And being in that state is just, you need people that just get it, and those that don't quite get it just watch from afar in a distance. Yeah. And then when I'm out of that, then I'll be the normal human being. We can talk about it, but in it, it's just.
Yeah, you've got to see yourself as a beast in your mind. Yeah. Like, when it's comp day, you can't just be chatting to normal guys on the street, having a normal chit chat, acting like it's a normal day. Like, your mind's in a different place, and you can't just have that normal civilian mindset that you talk about. So
how have you on that point actually, and having to be that person on that day and things like that? Have you ever had any conflict with people? And again, don't need to go into a lot of detail if you don't feel comfortable to. But, you know, in terms of just this is competition day. I need to dominate and destroy people that I'm jumping against here, running against, whatever. Has that ever flooded into kind of like social settings for you at all? Or can you pretty much walk into comp day, athlete, and then as soon as the day's done, warm down, you're back into Owen that everyone else knows you?
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty good at being switched off the majority of the time and only switching on when I need to. So I can be chilled even in the warm-up right up until I'm about to jump. I can be chatting and having banter with my competitors, like as if we're not at this big competition. I'll just be in normal Owen mode, normal civilian mode, and then only when I pick up my pole and I'm about to line up on the runway and I'm zoning in, that's when I switch. So yeah, I'd say I'm quite good at turning on and turning back off again. And soon after a competition, unless it goes quite badly, I might want to just stay in my zone a bit and process the thoughts first before I then chat to people normally again. But usually, as soon as the competition's done, I'm finished, so I can just go back to chatting to people normally and being social again. So I think I'm quite good at that, yeah.
Oh, good. Right, let's get into Commonwealths, because I remember I think I'd had a competition day and I'd come back and I was at coach's afterwards because I parked my car at his and we drove to the competition together and knew you were jumping, so watched. Home games at senior competition, your first one, came 5th in the final, which is incredible. Chat to me through that experience, please, bro. How was that for you?
Bro, it was sick. It was mad, yeah.
Because you jumped the qualifying here, didn't you? Was it here?
I jumped in Manchester. I attempted it here, literally on that outdoor goal there with about 5 people in the crowd. But they were all there showing up for me, like clapping for me, cheering me. I attempted the Commonwealth standard first there, didn't quite get it, and then 2 days later in Manchester, I jumped it, which was the last chance I could jump it to go to the games. So if I didn't make it that day, I wasn't going to the games. So the experience itself of the Commonwealth Games was sick. Like it's my first taste of like a major competition. I want more, but it was sick. Like, that was going to be a point I was going to make, by the way. Like, you looked at home, bro. Like, you did. You literally was just like, has he done? I actually went through your Power 10 again to see if you'd done like any televised senior meets prior, because you just looked like, I'm here, good to go. Yeah, never. That was my first ever big comp, and I felt at home. Like
at home games as well.
Yeah, I just embraced it and just enjoyed every moment. And I was like, I don't care that I'm on TV. I don't care that there's all these people in the crowd. Like, this is sick. I love this. Maybe it comes from an attention-seeky point of view, but I just love that stuff, mate. And ever since I was a kid, that's just how I saw myself ending up. So it felt normal to be in that situation. Yeah.
Did it almost feel as well? Did you get that like, okay, like it's like worth it done moment with that as well? Was that did that almost give like a bit of a I'm home, this is it kind of thing? Or?
On the day when I stepped in the stadium, no, because I had a job to do. Yeah. But when I got the phone call a few weeks prior saying you're going to the Commonwealth Games, there was a little sense inside of me. I was like, not I've made it or I've completed it, but I was like, right, one of my main goals in life, I've actually completed it now. Like, I've ticked something off that I've wanted to tick off. So like, not like, I can die in peace, but almost somewhat like that. Like, you know what? I've achieved one huge, massive thing I've always wanted to do, and I'm like so proud of myself that I've done that. But you can get caught up in that, and if you get too gassed and you just say, I've achieved my life goal, then you can become complacent and you convince yourself you've done it now, you've done the hard work, that's it. So you need to always be hungry for more, which I am. But there still was a big sense of pride and accomplishment in getting selected.
And then when we came to the end of that, because this is something I went through with one of my guests that we interviewed yesterday, actually, from coming from such a massively kind of achieving something that you've always wanted to achieve. How was coming home from that afterwards? Did you have like a lull or anything in terms of just a bout of like pure exhaustion and
To be honest, it lasted quite a while. I was still quite gassed after it for quite a while, but I went on holiday like quite soon after the games, and my season was finished after that competition. And I was walking to breakfast and I rolled my ankle in a hole in the grass, right? Literally just rolled my ankle, and there was a huge clunk, and mate, I was out for that. Put me out for 7 months. I couldn't sprint again for 7 months. So I guess that was a tough 7 months because I'd just come off the back of doing the highest jump I've ever done in my life, the biggest competition I've ever done, coming 5th at my first ever major games, right? And being like the man on the TV and all of that, to just like, I can't even train right now. It's like I'm going back to square one again after all that. I wouldn't say I got a low off it because I'm quite mentally resilient. Like, I wouldn't say I'm not in touch with my emotions, but I never let my emotions get the better of me. I never really get sad about stuff. I never really get depressed about stuff. So I didn't have a low in that sense. But I was just so bored at training for ages, and it just was so mundane and just boring, not being able to continue building off what I just achieved a few months prior. So I guess in that sense, it was a bit of a low because I got injured just after currently the biggest moment in my life. So that was annoying. And
obviously again we discussed about you potentially wanting to quit on that year as well. Did any of that come back in when you rolled your ankle at all, or was that completely done?
Nah.
Was that completely?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, I didn't want to quit just because I rolled my ankle, but I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, having those doubtful thoughts like, what if I can never vault again? Because all I did was roll my ankle, and it's been 7 months. And even to this day, it's still a problem. Like, I have to manage this injury a lot at training. I have to get a lot of physio. I have to do a lot of exercises to keep out of the way. And it still hurts when I warm up all the time and when I walk around. But thankfully, when I'm vaulting, it doesn't cause problems. So that's the main. That's the main thing. But like I was having those doubtful thoughts, like, what if this injury is so bad that I can't pole vault again? I've just done the biggest thing in my life and I'm not going to be able to build off it. But you're always going to get those thoughts, and they don't get the better of me, so it's fine.
And just in terms of sport in of itself, because again, we, as a general rule of thumb with athletics, it's such an up and down emotional roller coaster every season. Probably what also contributes to that as well was that it's such an independent sport. Like, we go to competitions together, we've got teammates and stuff, but unless you're relaying, you're on your own kind of thing. Yeah,
it's an individual event.
Yeah. Does that does that kind of feed into what you're saying earlier of just liking to be alone and just being left to your own devices? Like, do you give yourself that internal responsibility that this is on me and no one else? Yeah,
absolutely. I used to think like, it's not just on me, like, it's the coach's job to make sure I'm good as well, and it's whoever's making my program's job to make sure I'm good. Like, it's not all my responsibility. That's how I thought when I was younger. But now, like, it's you need full accountability. Like, everything's your fault. If the program's not exactly how you want it to be in your mind, then you need to have some sort of input or like discussion about that. But if you're not lifting as hard as you can in the gym because your coach isn't watching over you and telling you need to lift heavier or you need to lift harder or you need to lift smarter, you should be able to do that yourself. You shouldn't be reliant on other people. So as a sport, you should be fully accountable for all of your training and all of your achievement, I think.
No, fair enough. I only realised the other day, by the way, when I put the story up and just get some questions off people, I only clocked on that the poll didn't snap. I generally thought it snaps. And this whole time, and I've obviously watched that one's put up because I was looking for a few. So please explain to us what happened and how it happened, if you know at all, because you
know what, some of it still remains a mystery to me, but I know what happened. So basically, I ran down the runway and I put this sticky stuff in my hand to help me grip the pole, because if you let go of that pole once it's bent, fucked. That's exactly what I did. Although I had all this sticky stuff on my hand, right, this sticky tar spray, I don't know how or why it happened. Maybe I took off a little bit too close, because like sometimes it happens if you take off too close. But I ran down the runway and I took off, the pole bent and it just slipped out my top hand. So the bent pole recoiled, and as it recoiled, the whole force of the pole basically smashed against my funny bone. And mate, the funny bone's a bad one. Some of it slapped against my body, so some of the impact got taken. There was a big red pole mark there, but the brunt of the force was all on my elbow. And I just did a backflip, landed it, and then the pole hit the official in the head. I'd literally had no clue that even happened as well. I got a bit of hate for that as well. Like, well, not personally, but in that viral video on BBC, there are a lot of comments like, "Oh, how rude of the athlete. He didn't even check if the official was okay or apologise." And I was just thinking, bro, I was in the air, upside down. I didn't even know it happened.
Physics has taken over, bro. Like, my emotions don't matter anymore.
But like, even after I got up and I was okay, like, I still didn't know that it had hit him. Like, I had no clue. No one had told me. So but I mean, it was pretty wild. I mean,
physics just worked. Weird. Actually, on that point, that being like your first experience, and hopefully it never happens again, because I doubt it will, because you're just a decent lad, and I can't imagine you causing like social stress for people to have a go at you online ever again. But just on that point, being in this kind of position of now being on, or having been on telly at that time, and experiencing people just reacting to something that was, I guess, us educated in it, clearly not your fault. Like, you didn't mean to do that. You haven't gone down the runway and be like, I'm going to let go at this perfect point. So it like twice the official in the head. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's. But what's it like to just be exposed to just having someone very quickly being able to make an opinion of you, of something that was an act of God, effectively? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, act of God. Oh, mate, to be honest, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I read the comments, I laughed. Like, after... I guess after being in a stadium in front of that many people, you just get to a point where you can't care, because you could be stood there thinking, there's 30,000 pairs of eyes looking at me. As soon as I run down the runway, everyone's eyes are on me. Everyone's looking at me. I can't look a certain way. I can't do this wrong. As soon as you are in that situation, you just stop caring. And then once I saw those comments, like on the post, and like the official was defending me in the comments.
Yeah.
I think he was replying to their comments
saying, I think he was.
It's not his fault.
Saying,
And shout out to him for that.
Yeah.
Mate, I literally just did not care. I was just like, huh. I didn't care. And then there were people defending me, and then there was a whole debate going on. I was like, oh, great. I literally didn't care. But it was funny to see. It was funny to see. Yeah,
that's it. You're just evil, mate. Cool public opinion, bro. That's it. You can't fight it. 2024 next year. We're recording this in November 2023. Yeah. This is going to go out a bit later than that. So just to reaffirm with people, 2024 next year. It's looming. Paris is on its way. Can I ask, and again, you don't need to go into this if this is going to psych you out or whatever, but what's going on there for you? What are the thoughts in and around it, or are we just focusing on competition by competition?
I'm focusing competition by competition, but in my mind, it is possible to make it to the Paris Olympics, but I'd be a bit silly if I said I expect to make it there. I definitely don't. That's not an expectation I have. It is possible. I don't put limits on myself. I do think I can jump a lot higher and quite soon as well. I think my potential's there. I'm still young. I've still got longer run-ups to go off. I've got a lot to unlock. So it's 100% possible. But to do all of that in such a short space of time might be a push. But I don't put limits on myself. So it's possible, but we'll have to see what happens. But other than that, my main goals in the meantime, or even my long-term goals, Paris onwards, if I make it there or not, Paris onwards, my long-term goals are just I want to represent GB. I've actually never represented GB.
Have you not?
No, because, so last season, I had my sights on Euro under-23 champs, right?
Yeah.
I think I met the standard to jump it the year before, but then they upped the standard by 5 centimetres, so I just had to jump 5 centimetres higher. The summer season just gone, and I would have gone. But I was injured. I had like no competitions. Then I started to compete right at the end of the season off the back of the injury, and I was rubbish. So I missed out on that opportunity. And other than that, I've not made a single GB team. Senior, junior, not made a single one. So obviously I want to represent my country, my nation. So I want to represent GB, whether that's a Europeans or even a teams for step one, a European team champs, and then build that up to a senior Europeans or a Worlds. I want to represent GB. I want to go to a major championship. So that's what my sights are on across the next few years. I want to get to another major championships.
Yeah, I'm tipping you to get it.
Thank you, bro.
I genuinely have no doubt that you will, really. Unless some freak act of God happens again that stops you from going, mate. No, I'm putting you there to go. Owen, this has been great, bro. I appreciate you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Sick one.